Are you a Christian but suck at defending the faith? You've come to the right place. Are you an atheist and simply want to come along and listen to the silly arguments of the creationist? You've come to the right place. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back for another video. In this video, we're going to analyze the other debate I had with an intellectual atheist on X. All right, so we have our friend again, Divinely Designed, and he's putting up another very compelling evidence for intelligent design. And he says here, it's amazing to think that mindless nature created this sophisticated, intricate, complex molecular nanomachine. Kidding, that's absurd. I agree. So this is the fella that decided to take a bite. All right, let's get into it. DNA, this is not the Don, by the way, and I hate to think what his political views are. Not the Don. DNA self-replicates via chemistry and enzymes we can measure, model, and manipulate. But nope, too complex for your creationist brain. So obviously a magical, invisible engineer did it. Science? Too scary. So I decide to bite. My friend, you need to justify how and why chemistry and enzymes are this way. You also need to justify how a random chance universe could produce such an intelligent process. Assuming it just is that way is begging the question. His response, lol, DNA replication isn't intelligent, it's chemistry filtered by natural selection. Haven't heard of that God before. If your only rebuttal is too complex, therefore God, you're not refuting biology, you're advertising confusion. You missed the point completely and repeated the error. My rebuttal is that you have no justification nor basis to assume anything, because you assume that things just like that. Things are just like that. It's natural selection. It's chemistry. You stop doing science when you stop there. Basically, I'm saying he wants to just put a label on this whole intelligent process of cells repairing, etc. And he just wants to label it as chemistry and filtered by natural selection. Whatever natural selection means, right? We still don't know. Not the Don. Science explains how chemistry and natural selection work with evidence and predictions. Just remember this word, folks. Remember predictions, all right? Remember predictions. Asking where do laws come from, then inserting God isn't science. It's a category error. You didn't go deeper, you left biology. I left biology by questioning the basic laws of logic required to even understand it. Are you seriously trying to firmly divide the two? Can you understand chemistry without the law of non-contradiction as an example of one of the main laws of logic? Yes, chemistry assumes logic, but logic isn't magic. But logic isn't magic, it's just reasoning. Now I understand, I guess? No, I don't understand. Logic isn't magic, it's just reasoning. DNA replicates, enzymes catalyze, evolution works, whether you question reality or invoke a sky wizard. Category error doesn't make biology stop. Okay. We still haven't had an answer, by the way. You've conceded that chemistry leans on logic and then brush it off as that's just reasoning. Notice the constant begging. It's just this, it's just that. It doesn't need to go deeper. To ask the origin of chemistry is not philosophy. You're begging the question. To ask the origin is to continue doing science. Science explains how chemistry works. Asking for the origin of chemistry isn't doing more science, it's doing philosophy with lab coat aesthetics. Molecules don't care about your cosmic first cause. I mean, obviously they don't feel or think, but we do have to establish those things because it has massive ramifications on the rest of biology. So, and the outcome and the outlook that comes from that. Again, science, you identify how things work, but lack any accounting of anything. This is what I'm getting at. There's no accounting for it. Molecules do not care, but if they could, they would certainly care about their existence in the first place. No explanation of origin, logic, uniformity of nature, no basis for anything. FFS, we all know what that means. Molecules don't need awareness, and science doesn't need cosmic justification. Predictable chemistry exists. Keep that in mind, this word predictable, right, guys? Predictable chemistry exists because the universe behaves consistently. Okay? Not because it ponders its own existence. I'm more interested in here, predictable and behaves consistently. This is what I want him to establish, but he cannot, and you can't. But let's continue. No, you can't on a atheistic worldview, that is, naturalistic worldview. So how is it the universe behaves in a firm, consistent fashion when the main thrust of evolution proposes random chance mutations? How do you harmonize them together? Isn't this a contradiction in your own worldview? You wish to separate, but it's impossible to do so. Random mutations doesn't mean the universe is chaotic. It just means mutations aren't goal-directed. They still happen within stable physical laws. This isn't a contradiction in my worldview. It's just you mixing up random with disorder. Yeah, I don't see the divide there. Randomness would mean things not in order, no guidance. Anyway, we continue. If they aren't guided, then what are they? Natural selection? It is a contradiction because no guidance means no design, purpose, coherence. But we don't observe that in the universe. You keep asserting, but can't demonstrate no guidance means no coherence. Mutations equal biochemical events. Selection filters outcomes. Order emerges from stable physical laws all the time. You're treating not designed as if it means chaotic, but that's not how nature works. On the contrary, it's straightforward to prove that intelligence equals purpose, design, function. It's a massive leap of faith to assume that unguided, unintelligent evolution produces all of those, meaning intelligent design, of which all science depends on. Right, because claiming intelligence equals order is somehow self-evident. Yeah, it corresponds to reality, doesn't it? That's like saying someone must have painted the Grand Canyon because it looks impressive. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. That's right, God made it. Physics, chemistry, and natural selection create function and structure without conscious intent. I know you want to push that. I know you believe that. Let's keep going. It's demonstrated in what humans have achieved in technology, our development of discovery of laws of logic, mathematics. These pre-existent metaphysical properties have been used to advance civilization. You need to be more consistent with your own worldview. You assume too much. 100%. Humans discover and use consistent laws, but that doesn't mean the universe needed a divine hand to be consistent in the first place. That's a big leap. Chemistry, physics, logic existed long before we noticed them. Well, thank you. Yeah, that's right. Your inconsistency is just thinking our observation creates reality. Yeah, I'm not suggesting that. I'm suggesting a created world and universe created by a greater mind. Life doesn't come from non-life. Intelligence doesn't come from non-intelligence. I completely agree that they existed long before we noticed them. Now then, how do you justify their existence as consistent, uniform, and dependable, whilst also believing that the universe began from chance, especially in light of your materialistic view of reality? Materialism doesn't erase logic. It just says logic describes how reality behaves. We're not getting to the crux, to the bottom, to the foundation. Saying God grounds it isn't an explanation. It's a label you stop questioning. Who has stopped questioning? I am going beyond the bounds of natural selection and chemistry and all these things, and I'm asking how and why. I'm constantly met by, you don't need to know why, it's just this, it's just that, it's just this. I'm not the one stopping. It is a worldview, as is your materialistic, naturalistic evolution is. Both are paradigm or presuppositions. Materialism posits that reality is matter only falling through space. It doesn't justify metaphysics' immaterial properties. Could you please answer the question? You keep demanding a foundation for logic. Thank you. Yes, that's what I want. but God did it isn't a foundation. Oh, but you haven't provided a coherent answer though. It's just where you personally stop asking questions. I've been asking questions the whole time. Come on, man. We're getting there. It's my presupposition, and I'm asking you to justify your own and to demonstrate its consistency within your greater worldview. You've yet to answer the question I've repeatedly asked. My worldview, reality behaves consistently, we can observe it, and science models it. Right, I'm aware of that, but I'm asking you to harmonize, justify this worldview. How do you know reality? Here we go. How do you know reality always will be predictable and consistent? Further, how do you justify existence for immaterial things such as the laws of logic, mathematics, cause and effect? So I think we're getting to the crux of the issue here. I'm simply challenging him on his own worldview, which is based on a random chance universe and strictly materialistic outlook. How do you get life from non-life, intelligence from non-intelligence, sentient from non-sentient, and morality from non-morality? How do you get those leaps from a random chance universe? And then on the materialistic side, how do you explain the immaterial, such as the laws of logic, mathematics, cause and effect, all these things? And I highlighted this tweet because I think it's very important. How do I know reality will stay consistent? I don't. Thanks for being honest. And I don't think about it ever. I wonder why he followed that up with the concession that he doesn't know that reality will stay consistent. Why would you add that in? I'll let you decide that. I'll let you work that out. I infer it from every observation ever made. But you still don't know. You still don't know that reality will stay consistent. That's called induction. Saying God guarantees it doesn't explain anything. It's just you asserting without evidence. Okay. If you truly don't know, then I would say you're living inconsistent with your worldview. You're a materialist. You believe immaterial, which is immaterial, in the uniformity of nature. You rely on inherent properties, laws, which are immaterial, and you also purport that all of this came by random chance. Not claiming absolute certainty isn't inconsistency, it's honesty. Induction works because reality has been consistent so far. Logic and uniformity aren't ghostly objects needing a deity. They're abstractions. Okay, so they're not immaterial anymore, they're abstractions. They're abstractions describing how the world behaves. And random doesn't mean chaos. One thing to know, I'm just going to pause it here. He's calling on the reasoning of the logic of induction, the inductive argument. But the problem is with induction, with his worldview, as he admitted above here in the tweet that I highlighted, okay, how do I know reality will stay consistent? I don't. That has utterly destroyed your usage of the inductive argument. You can't induce it anymore. You don't know that the properties of this universe will be consistent in the future like they were in the past because you don't believe in an almighty, supernatural, super intelligent, super powerful being holding it all together. There's no consistency. All you have is a random chance universe. This is why the atheist can't rely on the law of induction. You can't infer because you just don't know. In a sense, for the atheist, because that's your underlying presupposition, and he's admitted that. But before you get down the line of experimentation and, if I test this, it does that. And if I test this, it does that. You'd almost have to start from scratch every single time you wish to establish a fact by experimentation. You'd have to start way back in the beginning. This is the massive problem with the atheistic, the materialistic worldview. You can't rely on induction. You don't have any guarantee in your worldview, any consistency any certainty that the future will be like the past. You can't use induction. This guy's just admitted, I don't. He doesn't know that. So if you don't know that reality will stay consistent in the future like it has in the past, you can't reliably infer. You can't rely on observations from the past. You can't rely on induction. Not claiming absolute certainty isn't inconsistency. It's honesty. Induction works because reality has been consistent so far. Logic and uniformity aren't ghostly objects needing a deity. They're just abstractions describing how the world behaves, and random doesn't mean chaos. You don't live your life consistently with that uncertainty though. So you're not being honest. You actually take things for granted and live by faith that from pure random chance, this universe became, featuring startling uniformity and consistency. And this is where the Don starts to lose it a bit. WTF? If trusted, repeated evidence is faith, then so is every plane flight, medical procedure, and smartphone. Yes! That's exactly what I'm saying upon your worldview. He gets it. That's what I'm saying. He's come to the realization. That's what I was saying before. You can't trust anything. It's all on faith, on the naturalistic worldview. Because you don't have justification that the future will be like the past in terms of the uniformity of nature, the laws of logic. You don't have the consistency. You don't have coherent certainty. The only difference is I don't insert a deity where probability already works. Well, you've just already admitted that probability isn't certainty. You don't know the future is like the past. Therefore, everything here, plane flights, it's all on faith in your worldview. Probability does not equal certainty. And yes, in your worldview, without a certain foundation for logic and uniformity of nature, you are taking a leap of faith for everything. Plus, you sort of created a deity in the forms of either science, natural selection, or reason. Getting to the end now, guys. Probability isn't certainty, and science doesn't claim it is. Okay, all right. It works on evidence and degrees of confidence, not divine guarantees. But you don't have any guarantees without the divine. This is the problem. And calling science my deity is just projection because I'm not inserting one into the gaps. Okay, so we default to the God of the gaps. And this is the end of it here. But you are operating on faith, no? When you in one breath say there is no guaranteed certainty, no design, but live and take advantage as if it always will be. And there was no further responses after that. So, concluding remarks on this debate, it would be that the atheist can never use the inductive argument or reasoning without begging the question. Because their worldview determines that the future state of nature can never be known or certain of. That is why Not the Don conceded himself that if this were true, then he would need to depend on faith when, flying in an aeroplane, driving over a bridge, going up to the 44th floor of a tall skyscraper. I would argue that that's a lot less reasonable faith than the Christian worldview, than the Christian who relies on a great God who has made all things, who has designed this world with reliability, with predictability, with certainty, with continuity. That's what God has done. Science requires predictability, which requires we don't live in a random universe. Logic requires universality, which requires we don't live in a random universe. Morality requires absolutes, which requires we don't live in a random universe. The creation model, the origins of life on the atheist worldview destroys everything. You cannot make sense of anything. That's a wrap for this one, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please let me know down in the comments what you think. If you've got any rebuttals, any comments, any critiques. And to my atheistic friends, I'm trying my best to get around to all of your comments. I'm sorry if I don't get to all of them. I might make another video. It'll be far easier that way, where I just go through and discuss them and talk about them. To my Christian friends, I hope this was encouraging and edifying for you. I hope you can be encouraged to have like-minded conversations with our atheistic friends, and hopefully it can be cordial, and just as Peter tells us, that we can share our hope with love, respect, and kindness as well. Guys, thanks a lot. We'll see you on the next one. God bless you all.